we've spoken before about stress, and the brain gives an inflammatory response to stress. And we know that stress, be it that physical, psychological, emotional stress, really changes how the way the cell functions. And that has an impact on not only your ability to heal well, but also you're suppressing your immune, more susceptible to infections and poor health and poor disease. And then how obviously those negative food habits are then feeding into that and creating more of that that problem, that inflammation problem, that then can be quite degenerative as you move forward in life.
Yes, it can.
What do you feel about that? Yeah.
Yes, certainly, and that's why I would encourage everyone to be following an anti-inflammatory diet. When people say to me, "What if there's just one thing that I can do to support my well-being over time? What is it?" And I always answer that it's having an anti-inflammatory diet that reduces inflammation in the body. So for example, making sure for a very minimum we're reaching our 5 a day fruit and veg every day. When we have our meals, making sure there's half a plate of vegetables or salad on that plate, because that's what's packed with the antioxidants. And also things like, I know a lot of your listeners might eat out a lot. That might be their lifestyle. And one of my big complaints is that restaurants rarely serve vegetables with meals anymore. They always have to be ordered as a side dish. And I'd really encourage anyone that is regularly eating out as part of their lifestyle, they do need to be ordering that side of vegetables to ensure they're having enough antioxidants in their diet.
I do wonder if there's a good opportunity there for restaurants to start including a degree of vegetables in their plates, because it should be a basic that most people can actually think that vegetables are actually a cheaper produce than the meat and fish or other options that people go for, and including that. And obviously there's so many different diets and ideas about, particularly if you're looking at maybe maintaining a healthy weight as well, and how that can affect the inflammatory response and what nutrition you need to be eating, because there is obviously a link to be poor eating habits, and later life you get diabetes and insulin resistance, which we've spoken about that before. And insulin resistance can cause a plethora of other problems physically that we don't want to have. So making sure you having that right nutrition that doesn't impact how your body responds to insulin, etc.
Yes, definitely. That would be a mixture of controlling the amount of sugar in the diet, because that impacts how much how hard the pancreas needs to work producing insulin, but also the insulin receptors. But also there's lots of research that we now know that also diabetes is related to inflammation.
Yeah, and not just diabetes as well. I mean, because if you think about the stress response, going back to that stress response and its relationship to inflammation, over a long period of time, there's research out there, isn't there, that says about its cause, and it can cause all sorts of health issues. And we're looking not just at things like how your body metabolizes fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, but also your mental state, your mood, depression, those sorts of mental health issues that occur up, but even to the more significant, more sort of serious illnesses, if you like, when you're looking at things like cancer, you're looking at cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, that sort of thing, but also for the neurodegenerative diseases. So you're looking at Alzheimer's, motor neurons, Parkinson's, can all come about from an increase of inflammation, from stress. So your nutrition actually is really vital as you're going through life, and it kind of need to think about this from a younger age, not just from your midlife, I would think.
Exactly. That's just you were talking. That's exactly what I was thinking. So what we very commonly see people doing is that reactionary of following an anti-inflammatory diet. So they realize they've got conditions, so suddenly taking an omega-3 supplement or increasing the antioxidant intake in their diet. And while with a number of conditions, we know that can slow the progression of that particular disease, what actually optimally we're doing is actually being proactive. And even if we haven't been diagnosed with an inflammatory related condition, actually that's what we need to be be doing now, making sure we've got those antioxidants in our body, the omega-3 in our diet, and looking after our gut bacteria. So we're working in a preventative way rather than a reactionary way. And I think where we see that very clearly is, so while I often talk about particular nutrients, and we very often, I think, in media driven, we can get very hung up with one food, that this food is a miracle food. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, for example, it's going to cure everything, and we get very hung up with one food. What we actually need to start looking at is dietary patterns. So what we have from science, so nutritional science approaches things in two ways. We have scientists, researchers that actually go inside the body and see what's happening to the cells. And then we have more observational research, where we actually look at populations that live long, healthy lives, and look, what is it about their diet that that means that they have a long, healthy life, have longevity. And this is very much where we get an understanding of the importance of dietary patterns. So everything we eat, the way we eat, rather than just getting hung up with one food or one particular nutrient. And I'd say where we see that most clearly is the three diets that are renowned for supporting longevity are the diet of the people on a Japanese island, Okinawa Islands. The Mediterranean diet, most people would have at some point read about the benefits of the traditional Mediterranean style diet, and also then the traditional vegetarian diet. They're the three diets that are renowned for supporting longevity. But if we look at those diets, while they have different names, what all of them have in common is they're very, very high in vegetables, they're high in omega-3, and what they actually are high in fiber that supports the gut. So while the diets, the dietary patterns that we know support well-being, actually, if we bring the other science into it, they're actually anti-inflammatory diets. So actually all of them could just be called an anti-inflammatory diet, but they've just got different names, like the Mediterranean diet. But they've got a lot in common, and they're the three diets that keep people with the lowest rates of chronic disease and cancers.
So basically, they're seen in those countries that those people who have those diets are just living for an extended life, longer life.
Not just living longer, but living well for longer. That's an important part of it, that they're seeing the disease rates being lower and coming later on, rather than people having a chronic disease for a long amount of time, that they're having less chronic diseases and cancer.
People can obviously live for a long time but be particularly unhealthy, and that's not what we're wanting. So basically, if you have one of those diets, Japanese diet, Mediterranean diet, or a vegetarian diet, you're really increasing the percentage of you living your life well for the longest possible time.